Good morning, students. Today, let me continue with that digestion chapter, and today's topic is concept of balanced diet and nutritional disorders. A balanced diet is very important, and especially it is very important nowadays because of our lifestyle. And a balanced diet is a healthy diet to be able to function properly, and our body needs all the nutrients that come from the foods, that is proteins, carbohydrates and fats. In addition to that, vitamins and minerals. And to help maintain a healthy weight and have the best chance to stay in the good health, balance is the key. So that is what the importance of balanced diet. WHO has given recommendations in 5 points that summarize the basics of the nutrition. The first one being, eat roughly the same amount of calories that your body uses. That means we should not consume extra. And the healthy body weight equals calories in minus calories out. A wonderful equation that is being given by this WHO. That is, healthy body weight equals calories in and calories out. That means how much amount of food that we consume, the same amount of exercise or the workout or the burning should be done. And eat a lot of, the second point, eat a lot of plant foods like vegetables, legumes, whole grains, fruits and nuts. And the third being, limit your intake of fats, preferring the healthier unsaturated fats to saturated fats and trans fats. That means we should consume the healthier fat like unsaturated fats, and we are supposed to prevent or avoid saturated fats and trans fats, which are more in the junk foods that the children nowadays eat. And limit your intake of granulated sugar, ideally less than 10 grams per day. So the sugar amount should be very less. It should be lesser than 10 grams per day. And limit your salt or sodium intake from all sources. As far as possible, limit the salt intake also. So these are the 5 recommendations given by WHO. And a balanced diet is a pleasure, and variety are important in a balanced diet. Fatty and sweety foods are usually the most delicious and can be part of a balanced diet if eaten in moderation. So very meaningful statement here. So the food that we consume and that we feel it is very tasty and delicious, they are not good for our health. And those which were not very tasty but they are very healthy, we do not prefer such kind of foods. So here we should consider this statement. A balanced diet should bring us our body needs, no less, but it must not be strictly followed every day. Equilibrium can be achieved over several days. So it's quite difficult to achieve this balanced diet all of a sudden. Overnight it can't happen, and it requires some time to follow. A balanced diet is for everybody, and at all stages and conditions of life, we need a balanced diet that can be adopted while following the same principles. For example, children and elderly people need a little bit more protein and calcium for growth, maintenance or repairing. Think of eggs, fish, white meat, legumes and dairy products in this line. And students and families might find it expensive and practically difficult to eat lots of fresh vegetables and fruits, and think of tinned or frozen fruits and vegetables that are cheap and nutritionally as good as fresh ones. Balanced diet. The food is something which nourishes, promotes growth and repairs in the body. A major portion of our food is water. And our food includes carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins and minerals. Carbohydrates yield about 4.2 kilocalories of energy per gram, while proteins yield almost the same amount, that is 4.2 kilocalories of energy per gram. and the BMR in an adult male, it is around 1640 kilocalories. You know what is BMR? BMR is nothing but basal metabolic rate. So the BMR per square meter of skin per hour is 40 kilocalories only, but we are consuming more amount of food which provides more calories to our body. A normal adult may have a skin area of around 1.7 square meters. Therefore, BMR is calculated like this: 1.7 multiplied by 40 into 24, that is 1632 kilocalories per day. So 1 calorie equals 4.184 joules. So it is concluded like this: a normal man or a normal adult should consume the food which provides approximately around 1632 kilocalories per day. But you just think over how much amount of extra calories we are taking in every day. A normal working man requires around 2800 kilocalories per day, and this is called RMR, that is routine metabolic rate. So it is observed in a person who is working normally. However, a strenuously working man requires more than 4000 kilocalories of energy. This is called AMR, that is active metabolic rate, and the energy comes from the food that he consumes. So in many cases what happens, the labor class people or the poor people, though they work more, that is they are involved in strenuous working conditions, but their consumption, their nutritional consumption is very less. On the other hand, rich people, though they do not do any heavy work or strenuous work, but they consume more. So there is a lot of disparity here with reference to the requirement and the consumption. On the whole, a balanced diet should have carbohydrate, fat, protein almost in the ratio of 4:1:1. That is 4 parts of carbohydrates, 1 part of protein and 1 part of fat. And 70% of carbohydrate will provide approximately 1960 kilocalories, that is 70 divided by 100 multiplied by 2800. 20% of fat will provide approximately 560 kilocalories of energy, and 10% of protein will provide 280 kilocalories. And since 1 gram of carbohydrate gives approximately 4.1 kilocalories of energy, we need about 480 grams of carbohydrate daily. So you just think over, the amount of carbohydrate consumption should be only 480 grams, but we are consuming more than a kg. Since 1 gram of protein gives 4.1 kilocalories of energy, we need about 70 grams of protein daily. Are we consuming this amount of protein? Since 1 gram of fat gives 9.5 kilocalories of energy, we need about 60 grams of fat daily. So here also you find the difference in the diet that we are consuming. A person should maximum consume only about 60 grams of fat per day. So we are consuming more than that. Apart from these organic nutrients, our body also needs vitamins like A, D, E, K, B and C, and minerals like sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, chloride, ferrous, copper, zinc, iron, etc. So these are the other organic nutrients that we require. A normal active man daily requires approximately the following pattern of balanced diet. As I mentioned earlier, carbohydrates, that is cereals like rice, wheat, ragi, it is only about 450 grams, and pulses like grams or dals 70 grams, leafy vegetables or like spinach and cabbage 100 grams, and tubers like potato, carrot, radish 80 grams, other vegetables like tomato, brinjal, lady's finger 80 grams, fruits like banana, mango, papaya, apple 70 grams, milk 250 grams, sugar 50 grams, fats only 50 grams. But if you look into this proportion of this balanced diet, we are not consuming it every day. So those items which are shown in this component, that should be consumed every day, but it's not possible for every individual to consume all these things in this pattern of prescribed amounts. However, for a non-vegetarian, reduce the amount of cereals. If the person is non-vegetarian, if the person is consuming non-veg in a day, that time he should avoid or limit the amount of cereals intake and even fats intake. So take only 1 egg per day and fish or meat of only 80 grams per day. But usually a non-vegetarian person will consume more than this. Nutritional disorders. Protein energy malnutrition, popularly abbreviated as PEM. It is a form of malnutrition that is defined as a range of pathological conditions arising from coincident lack of dietary protein and of energy in calories in varying proportions. The condition has mild, moderate, and severe degrees, and the types include kwashiorkor, the very common protein disorder, which is a protein malnutrition predominant, and marasmus disease, which is the deficiency in calorie intake, and marasmic kwashiorkor, marked protein deficiency and marked calorie insufficiency signs present, sometimes referred to as the most severe form of malnutrition. PEM is fairly common worldwide in both children and adults and accounts for 6 million deaths annually. In the industrialized world, PEM is predominantly seen in hospitals and it is associated with disease or is often found in the elderly. PEM affects children the most because they have less protein intake. Although protein energy malnutrition is more common in low-income countries, children from higher income countries are also affected, including children from large urban areas in low socio-economic neighborhoods. And this may also occur in children with chronic diseases and children who are institutionalized or hospitalized for a different diagnosis. The risk factors include a primary diagnosis of intellectual disability, cystic fibrosis, malignancy, cardiovascular diseases, end stage of renal disease, oncologic disease, genetic disease, neurological disease, multiple diagnosis, or prolonged hospitalization. And in these conditions, the challenging nutritional management may get overlooked and underestimated, resulting in an impairment of the chances of recovery and a worsening of the situation. PEM is fairly common worldwide in both children and adults and accounts for 6 million deaths annually. And in the industrialized world, PEM is predominantly seen in hospitals, which is associated with the disease, or it is often found in the elderly. Coming to iron deficiency or sideropenia. It is the state in which a body lacks enough iron to supply its needs. Iron is present in all cells in the human body and has several vital functions, such as carrying oxygen to the tissues from the lungs as a key component of the hemoglobin protein and acting as a transport medium for electrons within the cells in the form of cytochromes and facilitating oxygen enzyme reactions in various tissues. Too little iron can interfere with these vital functions and lead to morbidity and death. And the total body iron averages approximately 3.8 grams in men and 2.3 grams in women. That means women will have comparatively lesser amount of iron content. And in blood plasma, iron is carried tightly bound to the protein transferrin. There are several mechanisms that control human iron metabolism and safeguard against iron deficiency, and the main regulatory mechanism is situated in the gastrointestinal tract. And when the loss of iron is not sufficiently compensated by the intake of iron from the diet, a state of iron deficiency develops over time. And when this state is uncorrected, it leads to iron deficiency anemia, and before anemia occurs, the medical condition of iron deficiency without anemia is called latent iron deficiency, popularly abbreviated as LID, or iron deficient erythropoiesis. That is, if there is deficiency of iron, it leads to deficient erythropoiesis. You know what is erythropoiesis is? The process of formation of RBCs. Untreated iron deficiency can lead to iron deficiency anemia, a very common type of anemia. Anemia is a condition characterized by inadequate red blood cells or hemoglobin. And when the body lacks sufficient amounts of iron, production of the protein hemoglobin is reduced. Hemoglobin binds to oxygen, enabling red blood cells to supply oxygenated blood throughout the body. And children, premenopausal women, and people with poor diet are most susceptible to the disease. And most cases of iron deficiency anemia are mild, but if not treated, it can cause problems like fast or irregular heartbeat and complications during pregnancy and delayed growth in infants and children that could affect their cognitive development and their behavior. So it will also have an impact on the behavior as well as on the growth and development of the children. And symptoms of iron deficiency can occur even before the condition has progressed to iron deficiency anemia. Coming to some symptoms of iron deficiency which are not unique to iron deficiency, and iron is needed for many enzymes to function normally, so a wide range of symptoms may eventually emerge either as the secondary result of the anemia or as other primary results of iron deficiency. Symptoms of iron deficiency include fatigueness, dizziness or lightedness, and pallor, hair loss, twitches, irritability, weakness, brittle or grooved nails, and hair thinning, impaired immune function, pagophagia, restless leg syndrome, and continued iron deficiency may progress to anemia and worsening fatigue. Thrombocytosis or an elevated platelet count can also result. A lack of sufficient iron levels in the blood is a reason that some people cannot donate blood. Food sources. Mild iron deficiency can be prevented or corrected by eating iron-rich foods and by cooking in an iron skillet. Because iron is a requirement for most plants and animals, a wide range of foods provide iron. Good sources of dietary iron have heme iron, as this is most easily absorbed and is not inhibited by medication or other dietary components. Three examples are red meat, poultry, and insects. And the non-heme sources do contain iron, though it has reduced bioavailability. Examples are lentils, beans, leafy vegetables, and pistachios, tofu, fortified bread, and fortified breakfast cereals. And iron from different foods is absorbed and processed differently by the body. For instance, iron in the meat is more easily absorbed than iron in grains and vegetables. Minerals and chemicals in one type of food may also inhibit the absorption of iron from another type of food eaten at the same time. So this is also observed. So here is the tabular form which will show you the amount of the serving size and the amount of iron present in them, and percentage of guidelines and the type of food source that the iron is present. So you just go through this particular table during your leisure time. This is for your additional information. Coming to calcium deficiency. Calcium is a chemical element that is essential for living organisms, including humans. And it is the most abundant mineral in the body and vital for good health. And we need to consume a certain amount of calcium to build and maintain strong bones and healthy communication between the brain and other parts of the body. So this is what some of the importance or significance of calcium. And calcium is found naturally in many foods. It is also added to certain products and supplements are available. Coming to importance of calcium. Calcium is vital for bone health. Vitamin D helps the body to absorb and retain calcium. Milk, broccoli, and tofu are just some of the foods rich in calcium. Calcium supplements can produce side effects such as bloating and gas. And some dark green vegetables contain high levels of oxalic acid, which can reduce the body's ability to absorb calcium. Coming to bone health, around 99% of the calcium in the human body is found in the bones and teeth, and it is essential for the development, growth, and maintenance of the bone. Calcium continues strengthening the bones of the humans until they reach the age of 20 to 25, when bone density is highest. And after that age, bone density declines, but calcium continues to help the maintenance of bones and slow down bone density loss, which is a natural part of the aging process. That is why people who are aged or in their old age, they generally come across with these bone related issues. There will be fragility of the bones, and there will be the low bone density, and they develop osteoporosis and osteoarthritis. So those are some complications of the calcium deficiency. And people who do not consume enough calcium before the age of 20 to 25 have a considerably high risk of developing brittle bone disease or osteoporosis in the later life. And this is because calcium is drawn from the bones as a reserve. Muscle contraction. Calcium regulates muscle contraction, including the beating of the heart muscle. And when a nerve stimulates a muscle, calcium is released, and it helps the proteins in muscle carry out the work of contraction. The muscle only relaxes again once the calcium is pumped back out of the muscle. The next significance is blood clotting. Calcium plays a key role in normal blood coagulation, and the process of clotting is complex with a number of steps, and a host of chemicals are involved. Calcium plays a very vital role in the number of these steps. Other roles. Calcium is a cofactor for many enzymes. This means that without the presence of calcium, these important enzymes cannot work as efficiently, and the calcium affects the smooth muscle that surrounds the blood vessels, causing it to relax. And it is important to note that calcium is not easily absorbed without the presence of vitamin D. Coming to calcium-rich foods, that is sources, and according to the health authorities in North America and Western Europe, dietary calcium can be found in several different foods and drinks, and they also recommend that we obtain our calcium from a variety of sources, and the following foods and drinks are rich sources of calcium, which you are already aware of it: milk, cheese, yogurt, seaweeds, nuts and seeds, beans, figs, broccoli, spinach, tofu, dandelion leaves, and many fortified breakfast cereals. Also, many drinks including soya milk and a variety of fruit juices are fortified with calcium, and crushed eggshells contain calcium and can be ground into a powder and added to food and drink. and some dark green vegetables may contain very high levels of oxalic acid, which reduces the body's ability to absorb calcium. And the recommended daily consumption of calcium is as follows. According to the Institute of Medicine, we should consume calcium daily at the following amounts. So the different age patterns are being shown and the amount of intake, and calcium deficiency and calcium supplements. People with calcium deficiencies, that is hypocalcemia, are usually advised to take calcium supplements, and the supplements should be taken with food for best absorption to minimize the possible undesirable side effects. And each intake of supplements should not exceed 600 milligrams, and if more than that is consumed in one go, that is in one time, the excess will not be absorbed as well. And calcium supplements should be consumed at intervals spread throughout the day, and usually 2 or 3 times a day. And vitamin D is added to many calcium supplements because it encourages the synthesis of proteins in the body, which make the absorption of calcium possible. And choosing the right supplement these days can be of confusing type. There are various types in a wide range of combinations and preparations, and which one to select and which one not, and depends on the patient's needs and preferences, and their medical condition too, and whether they are on any medications. Coming to elementary calcium, the pure mineral exists in natural form with other compounds, and calcium supplements may contain different kinds of calcium compounds and varying amounts of elemental calcium. For example, calcium carbonate, calcium lactate, calcium gluconate, calcium citrate. So this is with reference to the different varieties of elemental calcium sources that are there in our food materials. So this is what the details of calcium deficiency and the calcium importance. So with this, let me stop at this level, continue in the next class.